Hello stellar people and welcome back to the channel. My name is Trey and it is now the summer session and I think we're going to go over some watercolor. I think watercolor is one of my favorite modes of making art with, and so we're going to go over my tools that I do for watercolor and also how to transfer an image from an image to watercolor paper, and then we'll just go through them there. So first it's the tools. Tools. So we'll take all of this individually. So let's go. Alright, first off is paper. Paper is one of the essentials for watercolor. You'll need to get the image from your sketchbook or whatever you draw, computer, and you'll have to get it down to the page. And so I have a image here that is Beautiful Bee's Kiss, and I have transferred her down to watercolor paper using Saral paper. And Saral paper is transfer paper. That's what this is. And it comes in blue, white, yellow, red. I think I have 3 colors: graphite, blue, and red. But I mostly use the non-photographic blue. And that's what I use to get the image down to the paper. And I'll show you that process in a bit. So paper is one of the most important things. This is Winsor Newton watercolor paper, and this is Arches cold press, 140 pounds. Heavier paper is thicker. There's 20 sheets in this block, which I get these blocks. It helps, speed up the process, and usually, especially when I'm doing tests, I'd use a lot of these watercolor blocks for experiments before moving on to larger pieces. So that is, and it's 100% cotton, 8 by 10, and that is my paper. But you can use any type of paper, watercolor paper that you can find. Michaels, believe, has watercolor paper. I'm very selective about my paper. Very, very selective. Some of it just doesn't hold up under washing, and we'll get into all of that later. But paper is very important. If you're gonna go into watercolor, I suggest getting better paper. The other stuff can be less, well, better paper, watercolors, and within your budget, within your reason. If you're just going to learn, you're just starting, get this cheaper stuff, but not too cheap, and experiment with it until you understand the basics, and then move on and upwards, up the scale of better paper and better watercolors. That is my suggestion. So that is paper. So next I have a lot of brushes. These are all my watercolor brushes, and I usually go through, some of these are really frayed and I needed new ones. So I have got some new ones that I haven't quite used yet. I think that one, this one. You don't need a lot of brushes. Usually a thicker, larger round brush. Maybe this, a flathead brush. I don't use this very often. I usually use this for coverage. Well, this one for coverage, but it's getting old. One for coverage, especially water application, and then a mid brush to get the colors in place, and a detail brush, and that's pretty much all you need. I just have more than I need because of reasons, but yeah. Brushes important, but not, don't go crazy with it. You just need about 3. a round, a mid-size, and a detail. That's pretty much it. And that is brushes. Okay, so this is, I have an eyedropper, very important. The actual paints themselves, I have a lot of them that I have accumulated over the years. In the beginning, all you need are the basic colors: red, blue, green, yellow, orange, and I'd say a pinkish maybe, but you could also dilute the red one, any red color. But I have many blues, a few reds. I think I have 3 reds, more greens, more browns, because those are big coverage colors. Because if you're gonna do like an ocean scene, you're gonna need not a lot of blue, but for coverage, if you're gonna do an ocean, get that large over a large area. Green, if you're gonna do forest, grass, all of that, you'll need a green, and that'll also be coverage. Yellow is a great base because you can cover yellow fairly easily. Also, as a tip, when you get low, like say this, when it's running out, take off the tip and keep that, because sometimes, like this is Winsor & Newton, it'll split, and that is not good because that means air can leak in and make it dry out. So I keep extras just in case it splits. I'll take it off, toss it, and then put a replacement on there. And I've had to do that maybe 3 times. So anytime they're about to go, you need to get a new replacement, I take off the tip, the cap, and then use that cap later. So I have like 4 of these. Little caps. And that is colors. But yes, in the beginning, blue, red, yellow, green, maybe an orange, but you can dilute some colors to make other colors and layering and all that. You don't need much. This is what I have accumulated over years. And some of my favorite colors, green gold, one of my favorites, Winsor blue, cobalt blue I use a lot for clouds. What else? If you want a base purple, or like if you're gonna do a nighttime sky, I would usually start with a permanent mauve. What else? Indian yellows, a good color. Indian yellow. Alizarin crimson for red. I usually use that as my red base. Alizarin crimson? No, alizarin crimson. Alizarin crimson. I use that a lot. And an eyedropper. This is pretty old, pretty worn. And I use it to take water from a water bucket, and then I drip it if I want only a small amount. Sometimes I can carefully pour it into each section, and other times, you know, I dip, doop, doop, doop. But you'll see me doing this when we actually get to painting. Alright, so now we have what we put the colors into, and these are little dishes where one can put different colors in. This is one of my older ones, and now I use it mostly for gouache, but I still use it sometimes. But this one and this one are what I use the most often. This one is a deeper and larger area for watercolors, and so if I have a large area I need to paint, I usually use this one, And this one is the more general use. I use this one the most often. And you can tell it's already stained by all the colors. So again, I have, I think, a yellow, orange, and a yellowish brown, green light, green dark, blue, and usually a pink or a reddish color in here. But we can step over to, also you'll need, like when I cut paper, I make these little test swatches just to test colors. And on it I've written the colors that I use, the base colors that I use a lot. Red, yellow, blue, green, red, and blue to make a purple. A darker indigo will also work. Brown and purple. Those are my main color sets. And this is just like a once over. So yeah, again, yellow, orange, green, brown, red, blue, and purple. And I did it a third time in orange, yellow, green, brown, red, blue, and purple. And these are the basic colors that if you were going to start a color set, I'd get something in this. And you can make other variations based off of this, but this is usually where I start. I have this little swatch that's just to test things before I apply it to paper. You'll also need something to hold water in. And so I have these two of them, one for ultra clean water and one for it can get muddier. So I dip it first in this one to wash it off, and then dip it in this second one to get more off. But I mostly want to keep, this one mostly clean. But I have two of them to hold the water for watercolor. Also, I have gummed paper tape. Now, some people, they just post things down to a surface with tape. I myself like to use gummed paper tape. This is my preferred way of doing it. Now, of course, if you have the art watercolor blocks, you're fine. It'll start to separate if you wash it too many times, but I don't think most people will do that. And let me show you what gummed paper tape. So this is an example of gummed paper tape, right? This is, and it keeps it on this nice sturdy wooden board. So I have it on all sides. So yeah, it's taped down to wood. And that's what I use this for. What else? Is there anything else? I have a large wide brush, and this is for washing. I wash it down. A lot of people don't do this, and I'd say this is fairly advanced. This is like a mid and intermediate to higher level, I wouldn't say technique, but a lot of watercolor is just you go in and you paint and you try to remember where things are drying, and you continue with the process until you get the image that you want, and then you let it dry, and then you can touch it up afterwards with dry brush. There's wet and wet, dry brush. You can also scrape some details if you care to do that. But I'll show you how I use this when we actually get to painting. Also, I have a napkin that I use to press. I bend it like this. After I wipe it down with a large flat brush, then I press it. I press the image, and then it gets up all the excess water. And then it's ready for another layer of watercolor. It's pretty involved. what I do is not exactly newbie friendly, but it's how I do it. And I think that is all of the stuff. So now I have the image that was once just a printout. I applied it to the art watercolor block with Saral paper, and I check it to make sure that I've gotten the bits that I need to get. Okay, I think I got everything I need. And so now she is ready to paint. I usually wash it down just to get rid of the excess. If you're going to use a pencil to get the image down to watercolor paper, it'll take off the top layer of graphite, also fingerprints, and whatever excess stuff that's on the page. If you wash it down just a bit and get ready for the paint application of paint, which is next up. So we'll do that next week. So, well, in 2 weeks. So thank you for joining me. I have been Trey Hodges. You can find my work at treyhodges.com. Power to all the creators, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Take care, keep shining. Bye.